For me, it is about the law and people.
That is not a legal defense, let me tell you.
And how people can resolve and better themselves.
Justice with passion.
I knew I was going to go into law because I always defended everybody. I was always the one who found a solution and tried to resolve the problem by having people talk to each other.
Justice with truth.
So I'm giving you one more chance to tell me the truth.
This is Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. Joyce Lazaro is suing Ben Jenkins in the amount of $625. Ms. Lazaro claims Mr. Jenkins sold her a bad batch of melons that ruined her showcase at a food event and cost her future clients. Mr. Jenkins claims Ms. Lazaro sampled the melons at his farm stand and says he gave the plaintiff as many melons as he could from the first harvest, but melons from the second harvest should have been the same.
So, Ms. Lazaro, I understand you bought some produce from Mr. Jenkins at his farm, but you were not satisfied, and that's why we are here today suing him or the farm for $625. Why don't you explain your claim, please?
That's correct. Well, I ordered 125 melons from Mr. Jenkins' farm, and in the past, I've had very good success when I've worked with small batch purchases, working for my customers. I decided to take a risk because I had a huge business opportunity in a recent food festival showcase at a local winery up here in Santa Barbara, and I was one of the featured chefs. It was a big deal. It was an opportunity to reach out to the high-end clientele that I've been looking for, and I decided to take a risk and order my first large batch from Jenkins Farm, and it was a disaster. The quality of the melons that I bought versus the quality of the melons I received was startling.
Okay. And had you ever purchased from the farm before?
Yes, but only in very small batches.
Okay, and what did you purchase before?
Specific vegetables, everything from rutabagas to corn. They've got great strawberries. I put a lot of faith in Mr. Jenkins and was really let down.
Okay, and I understand, Mr. Jenkins, when based on your statement that when somebody comes and buys batches or any type of fruit, you have them come in and taste what they're buying?
Yes, they sample the item before they decide to buy it to make sure that it's the best quality and it's what they deserve.
Okay, so then what happens, Lazaro?
Well, I like to work with small individual farmers because of the quality. And when I went in 4 days before my prep day, I tasted the honeydews and they were beautiful. They were absolutely perfect for my famous melon skewers. You know, melon balls wrapped in prosciutto, delicious. Well, when it was the day of the event, about 6 hours before it was serving time, I cut into the melons that Mr. Jenkins delivered. It was horrible.
Why was it horrible? What was the difference between the melon that you were cutting into and the one you tasted?
The one I tasted was fresh and would be perfectly ripened in the 4 days between the tasting and the preparation. The day of the event, the melons were sour, they were bitter, they were just not even from the same harvest, it seemed like, which it turns out that he mixed in a batch of a new harvest without telling me.
What do you mean he mixed in a batch of a new harvest? What does that mean, Mr. Jenkins? Explain to me.
So, as she said, she came in 4 days before to taste and sample her melons. And in the 4 days that she had gone and prepared for the event, we had many customers come asking for more honeydew. And we can't just, being a small business, we can't just stop selling product to the customers, or else we won't be successful. We won't
But
have
had
anything.
she already purchased?
Yes, he sold my melons.
Had you already purchased? I mean, has she already purchased the melons?
She purchased 125 melons. She can't purchase specific melons. She can't purchase a single batch. And because
I know,
we were
but she came in first. Did you set hers aside?
What?
Did you set her melons aside?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Because, as she said, she purchased melons. She didn't purchase a specific, or she purchased a specific amount. But we had a new batch of melons that were going to be ripened.
It doesn't matter. She was there first, right? So did you set aside what the produce that she bought and paid for? So if I come in and I say, oh my God, I love this. Okay, give me 125 of these melons. I would expect you to go to the back, set aside 125. I'll be back on Tuesday for them. That's what I expect you to do. Well, so what happened after she paid you for the 125 melons?
When she paid me, we got the melons, but we figured that because they were already ripe, if she came back in 4 days, the melons that she purchased would be overripe and they wouldn't suit her needs.
But did you tell her that?
No.
We told her that the day that she purchased, or the day that we delivered them to her.
The day, you delivered, not in advance. So essentially she was not getting the melons that she bought.
Well, because originally we didn't believe that there was going to be that many customers coming in to purchase that many melons.
Coming up on Justice for All.
And by virtually selling the melons I bought to other people and giving me a subpar product, I don't want to do business with him anymore.
And later.
Okay, but still, if you couldn't afford to make payments, monthly payments, why did you decide to get a car?
I needed one. It became such a hassle.
Closed captioning provided by. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. We're back with the case of Joyce Lazaro, who is suing Ben Jenkins for a defective product.
So what happened, Miss Lazaro? So you cut into them, they were bitter, they were not as good as what you tried?
Not even anywhere close. It was horrifying. I was at a crisis situation. My client demanded a product. It wasn't, I couldn't just not give 200 people the food they came for. And my chef instinct kicked in, and I realized that I had enough.
Because you were at this fair showcasing yourself, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
I was trying to.
So who was the client if you're showcasing yourself?
The owner of the winery.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The owner of the winery hired me to come in and cook.
Okay, so then what did you do with the melons?
I had to make a sorbet with sour melons, the ones that weren't completely unusable.
How could you make a sorbet in just a few hours? Is that possible?
Yes, it is. It was, I had 6 hours, which was just enough time to freeze it. But it was incredibly disappointing. The owner of the winery was disappointed because, of course, I couldn't deliver what I had promised. And when I tried to communicate with Mr. Jenkins, he just gave me non-answers saying, oh,
why didn't you return the melons back? Just not use them at all and just, you know, maybe go buy regular melons and do that.
I had nothing.
Huh?
Your Honor.
I couldn't, there was nowhere else to just randomly go get 125 melons. And that
Were you able to use any of them?
Just a few. I really had to stretch with this sorbet.
How many people were you serving?
200.
So you had to use more than a few. If you were serving 200, so how many melons did you use?
I'd approximate 50.
50 melons,
yeah.
Okay. And then the rest you used for sorbet?
Oh, no, I used 50 melons for sorbet. The rest,
and then the rest?
I had to throw out.
Why didn't you return to them the next day?
Your Honor, we offered her. When she first came to us saying that the melons were not ripe, they were not ready, we gave her plenty of options. One of the options included that if she were to return the melons, we would be able to determine what was wrong with them, why they weren't ripe, and then we would be able to give her better discounts or look at other possible options on how we could refund her or give her something else. But she refused to return them and decided to instead use them in her product still, even though they were not ripe.
But what was she supposed to do? You switched out the melon she wanted, and what was she supposed to do at the 11th hour? She had to fulfill her contract and try to make food for the winery. So what was she supposed to do?
The melons were still the same. The melons that we gave her, that's what I'm saying, I have a hard time believing that the melons were not ripe, whereas she describes them. Because
well, I have a hard time believing that too, Mr. Jenkins, because I think by your own testimony, I think you sold the melons she wanted to somebody, another customer that came in, and you replaced the batch that she wanted with younger melons who were clearly not ripe because of the bitter taste, as she describes. I think that's pretty common sense. So now, why are you suing for $625, Ms. Lazaro?
Because despite the terrible quality of the melons, I was charged $625, which breaks down to $5 per underripe melon. And I have my receipt from the farms.
But here's the problem, Ms. Lazaro. You used 50 and you threw the rest away.
They were unusable. I did try and compost
that's
them.
not up to you to decide. You return them back to him. You go back the next day and say, here are your melons, give me my money back. So what, you know, he had to make that determination. So you used 50, you threw the rest away. So you threw, what, 75 melons away? I mean, that's a waste.
It is.
So then he's out of pocket too because you threw away 75 melons. You could have just easily given back to him. He could have fed them to the animals on the farm. He could have done 100 million things with them and probably would have given you credit for 75 melons. So I'm not quite sure how I'm supposed to, and we also have no proof that they were bad now because you never returned them. So you subjectively threw them away. So how am I, do you see what I'm saying? 75 melons were thrown away.
Yes, Your Honor. I feel it comes down to integrity and bad business practice. We have had a long-standing business relationship, and by virtually selling the melons I bought to other people and giving me a subpar product, I don't want to do business with him anymore. His only offer was to give me 10% off a future purchase.
Well, Your Honor,
this was my big break.
Your Honor, you must understand that as a small business, it's hard to just, even though we've been doing business with her for plenty of years, for several years, we've been catering her very specific needs. We've met every requirement that she's ever had for us until this time.
Except for this time, Mr. Jenkins, and it's pretty clear that's what happened. You sold the melon she wanted. So now, I can't reimburse you $625 because you used 50 melons and you threw 75 away. So the only thing I could fairly do is give you half of the 50 melons that you used. Max, I can reimburse you is, you know, and I'm being generous, $150. So based on the evidence, I will rule in your favor, Ms. Lazaro, but only the amount of $150, okay? Good luck to you both.
Judge Perez has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant is ordered to pay $150.
We've worked together for years. You ruined my event. You should have delivered the produce you promised.
We are a small business, and I'm sorry I could not reimburse you. I just wish you would have brought back the melons.
Coming up on Justice for All.
You should have never, ever gotten into a contract with a car if you couldn't pay for it.
Closed captioning provided by... You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. Barney Torrance is suing Mary Howell in the amount of $6,450. Mr. Torrance claims Ms. Howell defaulted on a loan he co-signed while they were dating and says the defendant refuses to pay the balance now that she's back on her feet. Ms. Howell says Mr. Torrance used the car extensively when they first purchased it and says the plaintiff should pay for half the remaining balance to compensate for that.
All parties have been sworn in, Your Honor.
Thank you, Bernard. Mr. Torrance.
Yes,
You made
Your
the
Honor.
mistake and co-signed.
Yes, I did.
So you co-signed for your ex-girlfriend,
Yes, I did.
Ms. Howell,
Yes. Hi.
and the rest is history, right? That's why you're here today suing her for almost $6,500.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, tell me what happened.
We had been dating for about 2.5 years. She's been working hard as a waitress, going to art school. And so, you know, my job, I'm a liquor representative, so I have to go out to different bars and give them, you know, samples. So I'm pretty much a liquor salesman. And that involves driving constantly from bar to bar. So, you know, at certain times I felt so guilty because she's been taking a bus, going to school, going to work. And I figured, you know, she needs a car, she needs transportation, she needs to go to places. So I knew she had bad credit. I figured, you know what, I love her so much, I'm willing to co-sign for her. So we actually went a couple dealerships, actually found a great car, Honda Fit.
So you were able to afford the monthly payments without a problem?
Yes, I was able to make the down payment and continue the monthly payments. However, I have student loans right now to pay.
Okay.
I went to art school, and I'm a waitress, so I don't make a lot of money right now.
Okay, but you signed the loan knowing you could afford the car or you couldn't afford the car?
Knowing I could afford the down payment, but I wasn't completely sure about the rest of it, which is why my ex-boyfriend was nice enough at the time to co-sign for me.
Coming up.
But still, if you couldn't afford to make payments, monthly payments, why did you decide to get a car?
I needed one. It became such a hassle.
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching Justice for All with Judge Cristina Perez. We're back with the case of Barney Torrance, who is suing Mary Howell for $6,450.
Okay, but still, if you couldn't afford to make payments, monthly payments, why did you decide to get a car?
I needed one. It became such a hassle.
I can see where the story's going to go. You co-signed for her. She didn't make the monthly payments, obviously.
Yeah, and Your Honor, I did help her at times where, she needed that help.
How did it get to $6,400?
After I lost my car, we were just using one car, our Honda Fit that we got. So I had to use that car to go to work, save enough money to get my own car.
That's fine. So you were borrowing her car. Okay. And what else?
That was it.
Okay, so why are you suing her for $6,400?
Because the remainder is $6,450. She's expecting me to pay for it because I've used so much mileage.
So she did not pay the car, and they came after you?
Right.
Okay, and did you pay out the $6,450?
I paid $2,100 out of my own pocket to pay that.
Okay, and what's the balance? The balance is $6,450?
Right.
Okay.
The thing is, we ended up using this car equally.
It doesn't matter.
Judge Perez's verdict when Justice for All returns. Promotional consideration provided by.
You co-signed a document. Do you have a copy of the lease of the purchasing the car?
Okay.
You co-signed. You wanted a car, and you wanted a car that you didn't know if you could afford.
Yes.
Your boyfriend was nice enough to co-sign for you. Co-sign means he's the co-signer.
Yes.
So why is he co-signing? Because you're using his credit. The only reason you got the car, the loan for the car, was because he was co-signing it, period. You should have never, ever gotten into a contract with a car if you couldn't pay for it. Just don't do it, right? You could have gotten a used car. You could have gotten, I don't know, a bike. You could have done 100 million other things, but buying a brand new car, okay? So based on the evidence, I will rule in favor of the plaintiff for $6,450. Good luck.
All rise.
Judge Perez has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant is ordered to pay $6,450.
Well, today I learned a valuable lesson, not to ever co-sign for a girlfriend, only for a wife.
I really make an effort to pay you the money back, and I'll even get a second job if I need to.
This has been a production of Entertainment Studios.